Okay, welcome. So this short introductory video will go over some universal design for learning principles, what it is, and how some examples of how it might apply in your classroom. Okay, so a quick definition. UDL is a research-based set of principles to guide the design of learning environments that are accessible and effective for all. So the idea is to start with a curriculum that teaches everyone. Before we get started, I'm getting a little hungry, so let's order some food. Should I call my local pizza place or should I order from Seamless? All right, so let's think about the difference in this experience. When I make a phone call, I only get auditory feedback from the other person on the line. When I order from Seamless, I'm able to see the menu. If I can't read it, I'm able to use built-in supports to have it read for me. I can also do it at my own pace. I can take my time, look at the menu. I don't have to feel rushed by the other person on the line who has the next phone call waiting. I can make sure that what I ordered is right. At the end, when I go through a Seamless menu, I can see what's in my shopping cart and I can make sure that it's okay. And then I click submit. When I'm on the phone, I'm never really sure if the other person got my order right and what it is that's going to come and be delivered. And it's accessible to everyone. So when I make a phone call, I have to be able to speak. I need to be able to communicate with the other person. If I have to be able to read the menu to select what I want. And on an app, I can use text to speech to have the menu options read to me. I can have it magnified, and I don't necessarily need to speak to get my food. So that's kind of like an everyday example of a design experience for something that we do every day, at least New Yorkers. So these are there are three guiding principles for universal for design for learning. The first one is the affective networks, and that's related to part of the brain that's related to your emotions and motivation and like your amygdala and your emotional connection to learning. And so a lot of times the most memorable educational experiences from your childhood might be ones where you felt extreme joy or happiness, or unfortunately maybe sadness and fear. The recognition network is the what of learning, and so that's related to many parts of your brain related to how you understand the information that's coming to you. So that's like your perception, your visual, language, and how you understand the information around you. The strategic networks is the how of learning, and that's the showing what you know. So, how do you plan a task and organize your ideas and problem solve? And the idea behind it is to differentiate the ways students can express themselves. So within each network, there are broken down into subsections. So for example, under providing multiple means of representation, so that you as a teacher, when you're presenting information to a student, can you make a variety of options for how a student perceives what it is that you're teaching? Can you provide different options of symbols and expressions? Can you provide different options of how a student can comprehend something? So for example, you'll notice that everything within the UDL graphic organizers are color coded. And so you start to become to understand that like, oh, purple is representation. So that's a strategy that is being used right here. The next one is action and expression. So vary the ways that you have action in your classroom, maybe movement, um, a communication. Does everything have to be written in pencil and paper? Are there other ways to communicate what you need? Can they make a mobile media um, project? And then providing options for executive functioning. So things like organizing yourself, timelines, when things are due, um, and then engagement. So how can you recruit interest? How can you keep their engagement and interaction active? How about another part is providing options for sustaining effort and persistence. How can you structure your class to continue working even though something is difficult? And providing options for self-regulation. You know, if they have a difficult time sustaining their attention, what can you do to help them sustain that attention? And what if they have a hard time coping, or a lot of that social emotional sort of conflict that happens in the classroom? So the UDL curriculum is meant to teach a skill, is not meant to teach a skill in particular, but to master learning itself. So the idea is to design a curriculum from the start that removes barriers to learning. And I kind of like to think about it in mathematical senses of like the lowest common denominator. How can I design a curriculum that meets every student in the classroom? And the idea behind it is not to have to retrofit a pre-existing curriculum, but to start with a well-designed curriculum to begin with. Unfortunately, that might not always be the case, and so I find that a lot of teachers do end up having to retrofit their curriculum and implement UDL principles as they can. So the first part is to establish goals. So your goals are not necessarily related to standards and skills. We said that before. But towards meeting a goal and a path, okay? Because you want to create expert learners. The goal is to learn how to learn, not to just memorize and regurgitate. And this is actually very similar to understanding by design kind of goals. When you look at the overall unit, what do you want a student to get out of this particular unit? The next one is methods, and those are more about your approaches, procedures, the decisions you make as a teacher within the class, and then they might often need to be adjusted depending on how the students respond, and it requires frequent monitoring. Materials are a lot of times the tools and the hardware or software, and a lot of the things that you need may actually be free or low cost or already exist in the environment. It's more of a creative way of using what you have. So UDL does not necessarily need to be expensive. And then assessment. So looking at how students are responding. Do I need to iterate? And so on. So what might it look like in the classroom? All right, so providing options for perception. If everyone's reading a book, can you provide an option for reading that's digital? And then a student can use text to speech or have an audiobook available for reading. Options for communication. Do they have to write everything, or can they just record an audio response to a reading passage, and then you can take a look at their comprehension that way? Options for recruiting interest. A simple modification, like if you're doing math word problems, can you put in classroom students' names within the word problem? Options for persistence. using personal timers and goals to sustain attention. So the Pomodoro method is a way of combating procrastination, where you set yourself a timer for 20 minutes and you limit your distractions and work consistently for those 20 minutes, followed by 5 minutes of reward time. And then you repeat those Pomodoros based on the length of your task. All right, so to recap, UDL, research-based, cognitive-based principles to guide the design of a learning environment and to make sure that it's accessible and effective for all learners. So math, most common denominator. There are 3 guiding principles: multiple means of engagement, expression, and representation. Okay, and the curriculum, when you design the curriculum, it needs to involve goals, general long-term goals, not just specific skill acquisition type goals. Methods, which are the strategies and decisions that you as a teacher make. Materials, that are the tools, and ongoing assessment. All right, good. And that covers our brief introduction to universal design for learning. Thank you.